Welcome to Management 298. I'm Dr. DeCosta, and I teach this course. I have started this course many years ago, and this may be the last time that I teach the course for Humphreys University. I've been with the college for about 22 and a half years, and this by far is one of my most favorite courses. So I hope that you enjoy the course. But there's something that I want to tell you. First things that some of the things that we're looking for in having the learning objectives for this particular course. The learning objectives go beyond what you've been taught up to this point in your college career, for sure. And I think that what we teach here becomes very important, especially nowadays. You've heard of fake news. Well, I'm here to tell you that all news is fake, always has been. You can believe it or not, but do the research. I think you'll be surprised. In fact, in this course, we're going to uncover a number of things that we've taken for granted. We have a certain perspective being born in America, and I think that the founding ideals, American ideals back in 1776, were well, actually, I think that they were pretty much awesome. I think that they provided us a number of safeguards, particularly our freedom of choice and our liberty to pursue it within the confines of the structure provided by the United States. Now, we can argue about whether that structure was good or bad, or is it good for all people or just part of the people. You know, that's a difficult one. And I'm sure that there's many answers to that. I'm certainly not one that believes that we've discovered any truth except for the truth of mathematics. Of course, that's a defined system. All right, so we've defined it. Yeah, there's relative truth inside that, but and so therefore all of our sciences, we have certain laws and rules, and if we follow those rules to the degree that we follow them, it sounds like it's a very sound principle. But do I believe it? No, I don't believe. I don't believe science. No way. Not when things change over the decades as they have. And plus, there's too many opportunities for someone to fake the science, like unfortunately the CDC. But for less serious thing, but we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the CDC. Excuse me for laughing, but it's not really funny. The whole idea of we're supposed to be able to trust our government and trust the agencies that are established to protect us, our citizens, all of us. And when those agencies fail us so dramatically and so visibly, I think, fool me once, okay, you could do that. It's like strike one in baseball, right? I still have two more strikes. But fool me a second time, it's not going to happen. So I don't have any faith in the government to protect us because it hasn't been. I don't have any faith in the government agencies that they've set up to protect us because they don't. It's just a matter of paying off some congressmen and politicians. I'm sorry. I don't trust any of them. I don't think that they do what I'm going to teach you how to do in this class, which is simply think. Say, oh, I know how to think. You probably do know how to think up to a certain point. But I'm talking about a deep kind of a thinking, the kind of thinking that as an academic or as a scientist you want to have. And that's simply take your time, ask questions, all the questions. No question should go unanswered. So if you think about that, then you're probably going to come to the realization that your research will never be done. In truth, that is correct. Your research is never done. You look at a problem, you always find other problems with the problems. Either you find new variables, which you hadn't thought about before, or when you reach your conclusion, all of a sudden you come up with another idea. Oh, I know why that happened. Okay, or possibly this interfered with it. And you have to check that out. Well, it's the same kind of attack that you have to have when you hear something new, something on the news, something Donald Trump said, or maybe he didn't say it. You have to look at the context. That means you have to go back and actually see it. If there was a recording, if there wasn't a recording, you're up against it, because now you're up against perceptions, individual perceptions. Now, if you see, half a dozen people who've quoted the very same thing, it's a pretty high probability that he did say those things, okay? And then you can I'm not saying take it to the bank, but, it is something. But what did you find? You found 6 other sources that said the same thing. Lacking that, I'm not saying you have to have 6, but on every little thing that you're investigating. But when you start investigating something, it's got to be complete. You not only have to investigate the act itself and the context. Okay, so that means the mood that was prevailing at the time, whether the person said it in anger. Sometimes we can be pretty stupid when we get angry, or hey, they're only human, right? All humans are just human, and as a human, they have faults, and that fault can materialize at a very unopportune time. Hey, so nobody's perfect. If you are perfect, I would wonder if you're a robot or something. And then even then, the programmers probably don't have excellent programs that can totally resolve even a robot of its behavior, its actions. So there's a lot that needs to be investigated when we're investigating anything. And so I want you to keep that in mind. Ask questions. Think about it. And this is not something, this class is not going to work for you if you want to look at the assignment and say, okay, I got 15 minutes. I'm going to write something, right? You aren't going to get away with that in this classroom because of a number of things. One, I want to see where your thought processes came from. So I want you to support all your statements. And I also want you to look on the alternate side, So, let's say that, you're born into a family of Republicans or Democrats or whatever political persuasion, or perhaps it's not really a political persuasion at all. Maybe it's a religious persuasion of one sort or another. Maybe you're Catholic, you're Buddhist, or Hindu. To me, it doesn't really matter because, no, I'm not religious. I shouldn't laugh, but it's just because I can't believe it. I go look at the evidence, and the evidence doesn't convince me. Okay, and so I want to be convinced. Here's the flip side of that. The bad side of that is that I am never totally happy with my beliefs. In fact, I kind of hold all my beliefs like this. Maybe, maybe not. When something else comes along that's possibly a little bit stronger, I can kind of grasp it, and say, maybe it's maybe, but it never approaches, oop, there it is, the truth. There is no such thing in my life. And I'm a relatively happy guy, so I guess you can be happy without really it believing in anything. So they call people like me agnostic. I said that's a funny sounding term, but in the world that we live in, with all the different belief structures that we have and all the different perceptions we have of what happens, I don't know how anybody can actually hang their hat on a belief. Now, I know because I was raised a Catholic, I understand that there must be some programming in there that I haven't been able to overcome yet. But and hey, it's still comes out. It's like uh, get into a hairy situation, and I'm likely to call on Jesus to help me out. So I mean, I don't know how you get rid of something like that. I don't know that I want to get rid of it, but I'm just not really a problem. But it is something that I am aware of. I'm aware of the programming that I've had as a child, and I'm also aware of all that I've done to divest myself of that programming. Um, in either case, I just hope that you really enjoy this class. And in the first week, we take it kind of lightly, but buckle up because in week number 2, the fangs come out. And so I'm going to want you to pay real good attention this week to, what an expert is. I think that's important. And you can't do too much thinking. You cannot do too much thinking about a problem. And I want you to know that the forums, they're going to be worth, probably 40%. I'm thinking somewhere like that. So your weekly posts, answers to the questions, your research, your primary research, is going to be the primary thing that you do for this course. And so therefore it's got to be good. And you're not going to want to write a couple of lines because that's never going to suffice. Because along with your answers to the question, you have to have enough narrative so everybody understands what position you're taking. Where are you writing this from? What, so hopefully we'll have, a number of people. So I'm assuming that there's going to be differences between you. And hopefully you'll all feel free to speak in this classroom, in the forums. You should. The only thing that I would think would make it difficult for you is if you have a certain belief structure and you're not going to change it. You're probably headed for an F. Not that you have to change it, but you need to support it, and you need to be aware of the contra arguments, the evidence that supports your opponent. Okay, and that'd probably be me, but it could be your classmates. Hopefully, it's your classmates. You don't want to get me involved in the arguments, but normally this class goes quite well. I stay out of the forums. The students do a very good job of kind of monitoring each other without really hurting anyone's feelings. They just do it academically, and if you do it academically, just state your case, what supports it. Hey, take a look at this. What do you think? Then I think everybody gets along. Everybody gets along fine, as a matter of fact, and tons of good grades come out of this course. If you miss a few weeks, your grade's going to suffer. I'm very sorry to say. So hopefully that won't happen. But this particular course happens over 10, 11 weeks, and we have to stick to that schedule. So unfortunately, we can't go beyond that. But in either case, since this is my last class, or maybe, I mean, I assume I could come back as an adjunct, but in actuality, I think, even though I was going to retire, I think I've been offered a couple of positions. I think I'm going to take one or two of them, uh, because well, it's fun. That's the main reason. It is fun. It's fun to uh, keep your mind active, and considering that this is all a cutting edge company, on the very, very cutting edge of what's happening out there. Uh, hey, might as well, right? And see how it goes. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. But I don't think I can stay away from that, and I can't stay away from well, I was going to say what they offered me, which is, hey, very generous, and much more generous than I've ever been exposed to in education. Much more generous than I ever did exposed to prior to education when I was out in the real world, so to speak. But in either case, but I do like to spread these ideas, and if asked, I will. I'll gladly come back and teach an adjunct class for Humphreys University. Humphreys University has been very good to me, and I would hope that I could return the favor, but it's got to be on my terms. My terms simply are you, the student. I am concerned that you've gotten a good education, that you can maintain an open mindset, that you can investigate, do your researching uh, beyond the academic literature, which is biased by its very name. It is biased. So we have to look at the evidence and show you that it's biased. So I mean, it's a lot of the things right now. 22 years ago, when I exposed some of these ideas to students, they were aghast. Well, now I think that finally, the student populations are beginning to see that, you know, not only were their parents fooled for their whole educational process because the evidence has been around forever, but you know that they themselves had been exposed to some of those lies. And I'm not to say that we know exactly what happened. We certainly don't, but at least we recognize when we've been lied to. Okay, so that's important. So we look to our religious organizations, including my ex religion, and see that they've lied to us, and they do some very unscrupulous things that we certainly don't think are ethical or moral or Christian, if we want to say that, keep that a religious mindset in there. So, and if we kind of think along those lines, as long as we think along those lines, I'm going to be very, very happy with this particular class. So, anyway, I hope you enjoy the quarter, and I know I will. Guaranteed, I will enjoy the quarter. It may be my last. If it is, sayonara, Humphreys University. You've been very kind to me, and your students have been awesome. I really have a plethora of students that I think very highly of, and hopefully they think highly of me too. Hey, I'll see you in the forums. Well, maybe not. Hopefully not. I'll see you and tell you how you did in the forums. That's what you want to hear. You want to hear, oh, great job, excellent, outstanding. Whether I believe you or not, but the idea is, could I believe you? You get that nod from me that you've done well. Basically you've created a logical argument, you've supported it, you've shown the opposite sides, and you've destroyed them. And hey, I love it, no matter which way the wind blows. So that's it. Hey, I'll see you in the class.